Something very unexpected has happened on Oak Island, something the team never thought they would witness in their lifetime. After years of searching, digging, testing, and trying to connect clues that seemed impossible to match, Lagina finally said something that stunned everyone around him. He spoke calmly, but his words carried a weight that froze the entire team. Rick said that the Templar vault is real and that there is treasure inside. This moment didn't feel normal. It felt like the entire story of the island took a sharp turn. For 2 centuries, people only guessed, argued, and made theories about what might lie under the ground. But now, for the first time, someone who has spent years studying the island, someone who never speaks without strong evidence, gave a direct confirmation. The silence that followed Rick's words lasted only a few seconds, but for the team, it felt much longer. Everyone knew Rick is not the kind of person who makes wild claims. He speaks only when he is certain, and that made this moment even more powerful. For some of the crew members, a sudden wave of excitement hit them. For others, fear crept in, because they understood that if this was true, the island was no longer just a search project. It was about to become a global point of interest. Whatever was lying beneath the ground had now become the center of attention for historians, archaeologists, experts, and possibly authorities who had been watching from a distance. The ground scan team had made a discovery earlier that week that changed everything. A reading came back with a density 5 times stronger than normal metal. This was not normal. Metal underground usually gives clear signals, but this one was so intense that the machines almost reached their maximum reading. The team ran the test again, and the same result came back. The engineers looked confused at first, then shocked, because high-density signals like this are not seen in typical underground formations. They appear only when a very heavy, very solid mass is hidden below the ground. And this wasn't just any shape. The 3D GPR map showed a sealed chamber almost 22 feet long and 14 feet wide. The lines on the screen were razor-sharp and straight, so perfect that even the experts who were used to scanning difficult terrains were stunned. Underground shapes are usually messy and uneven. Rocks shift over time, soil collapses, and natural formations can be unpredictable. But this chamber was different. It was straight, symmetrical, and perfectly blocked off. It was clear that someone designed it with careful planning. The team had never seen such a structure on the island before. As the engineers turned the 3D model around, the shape looked less like something formed naturally and more like something built with intelligence and purpose. Something very unexpected has happened on Oak Island, something the team never thought they would witness in their lifetime. After years of searching, digging, testing, and trying to connect clues that seemed impossible to match, Lagina finally said something that stunned everyone around him. He spoke calmly, but his words carried a weight that froze the entire team. Rick said that the Templar vault is real and that there is treasure inside. This moment didn't feel normal. It felt like the entire story of the island took a sharp turn. For 2 centuries, people only guessed, argued, and made theories about what might lie under the ground. But now, for the first time, someone who has spent years studying the island, someone who never speaks without strong evidence, gave a direct confirmation. The silence that followed Rick's words lasted only a few seconds, but for the team, it felt much longer. Everyone knew Rick is not the kind of person who makes wild claims. He speaks only when he is certain, and that made this moment even more powerful. For some of the crew members, a sudden wave of excitement hit them. For others, fear crept in, because they understood that if this was true, the island was no longer just a search project. It was about to become a global point of interest. Whatever was lying beneath the ground had now become the center of attention for historians, archaeologists, experts, and possibly authorities who had been watching from a distance. The ground scan team had made a discovery earlier that week that changed everything. A reading came back with a density 5 times stronger than normal metal. This was not normal. Metal underground usually gives clear signals, but this one was so intense that the machines almost reached their maximum reading. The team ran the test again, and the same result came back. The engineers looked confused at first, then shocked, because high-density signals like this are not seen in typical underground formations. They appear only when a very heavy, very solid mass is hidden below the ground. And this wasn't just any shape. The 3D GPR map showed a sealed chamber almost 22 feet long and 14 feet wide. The lines on the screen were razor-sharp and straight, so perfect that even the experts who were used to scanning difficult terrains were stunned. Underground shapes are usually messy and uneven. Rocks shift over time, soil collapses, and natural formations can be unpredictable. But this chamber was different. It was straight, symmetrical, and perfectly blocked off. It was clear that someone designed it with careful planning. The team had never seen such a structure on the island before. As the engineers turned the 3D model around, the shape looked less like something formed naturally and more like something built with intelligence and purpose.
Designs seen in famous Templar locations in Europe. Experts were speechless for a moment. These carvings were not something someone could make casually. They were sharp and symmetrical, meaning a skilled hand had carved them. The question then became, who brought these symbols to Oak Island, and why? The Templars were known for their secretive missions, their hidden vaults, and their advanced building skills. To see the same type of carving near the hidden chamber made the team realize that they were no longer just following a myth. They were standing in front of real evidence. As the team stood around the site, the air felt heavy. Rick himself went quiet for several seconds when he saw the carvings clearly. When he finally spoke, he said, "These marks were not made by mistake. This is a sign." Those words alone sent a shiver down the spine of the crew. For years, the team had studied clues, followed trails, and listened to countless stories. But this was the first time they had direct signs from the past that connected Oak Island to the medieval world. It was no longer a question of maybe. Now it was about finding out what was inside the chamber. The night drill test was one of the most intense moments in the entire search. The production cameras were turned off because this was a private test. Only a few members of the team were allowed to be there. The atmosphere was dark and still, and the cold night air made everything feel strange. As the drill moved deeper and deeper underground, everyone waited in silence. The machine vibrated normally at first, but then the vibration meter began to spike. A strange tension filled the area because the reading was unusual. Then, it happened. A sharp metallic sound echoed from underground. It was so loud that the soil around the drill shook and loose dirt shifted across the ground. The sound did not come from a rock. It did not come from a natural surface. It sounded like metal, hollow metal. The engineers looked at each other because this kind of sound is heard only when a drill strikes a manufactured structure. When the drill was lifted back out, something even stranger happened. A burst of cold air came out of the hole. It was not normal cold air. It had the feel of air that had been trapped for centuries, preserved in a sealed chamber that had never been opened. A faint smell of sulfur followed the air, a smell that occurs in ancient metals and locked chambers. Rick stood still for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. The cold air, the strong metallic echo, and the unusual readings from the drill all confirmed one thing. They had hit a sealed vault. Not only that, but it was a vault that had not been touched or opened for centuries. The engineering team explained that air inside a sealed structure stays trapped for hundreds of years. When the seal is lightly broken by a drill, the pressure forces the air upward, creating a burst. The strangest part was still ahead. For weeks, the crew had been noticing quiet movement of unknown people near the dig site. That night, 2 black SUVs were parked on a distant road. They had no license plates, and the people inside them never stepped out. They simply watched the site from a distance, barely visible in the darkness. When the Duo struck the vault, a small flash of a phone screen appeared inside one of the SUVs, as if someone was taking notes or recording the readings. Engineers found a small device in the grass the next day. It was a signal monitoring tool used by large agencies. The team was unsettled. It was clear that someone was watching the site closely. Meanwhile, the AI team took all the 3D scan data, seismic readings, magnetic signals, and GPR records and combined them into a digital model. The results shocked everyone. The outer vault that the team thought was the main chamber was only the first layer. Beneath it, at a slight angle, lay a second chamber. This one was dome-shaped. Experts immediately recognized the shape. Medieval architects who designed
Sacred vaults often used dome shapes to keep the chamber strong and hidden. The second chamber was deeper, larger, and had higher density readings. The discovery of two chambers changed everything. This was not just a simple pit. It was a planned system, a multi-layer vault built to protect something valuable. The outer chamber acted like a shield, while the inner dome held the real treasure or documents. The engineers then tried to drill again, but the moment the drill touched the outer wall, the machine sound changed. The bit began breaking, not once, but multiple times. Modern tools failing against a wall underground? This did not make sense. When they tested pieces of the wall, they found that it was made from a metal blend, mixed with minerals that were not common in nature, something forged with unusual skill. The more tests they ran, the stronger the truth became. The vault was not natural. It was built, and it was built with knowledge far ahead of its time. The revelation of the second chamber caused a ripple of both excitement and fear among the crew. No one had expected Oak Island to hold a structure so complex, so perfectly engineered, and so meticulously hidden. The outer chamber, which they initially assumed was the final vault, turned out to be nothing more than a decoy, a protective shell for what lay beneath. The dome-shaped inner chamber had a density that dwarfed the outer walls, suggesting the presence of a heavy, solid mass. Engineers estimated that this could only mean one thing. The Templars had hidden something incredibly valuable, either in gold, artifacts, or documents, within a chamber designed to withstand centuries. Lagina stood silently as he absorbed the implications. For decades, Oak Island had been a puzzle, an enigma wrapped in countless legends and theories. But now, the evidence was undeniable. A chamber had been discovered that combined medieval architecture, precision engineering, and hidden layers, all pointing to the unmistakable work of the Templars. It wasn't a treasure hunt anymore. It was a journey into history itself. Every team member understood that they weren't just uncovering gold or relics. They were uncovering secrets that had been intentionally hidden from the world for centuries. The next challenge was technical. The outer vault's walls were so dense and resilient that even modern industrial-grade drill bits struggled to break through. Each attempt chipped or broke the equipment, leaving the engineers stunned. The wall was not just strong, it was beyond anything contemporary science could easily overcome. Samples taken from the wall revealed a strange alloy of iron, carbon, sulfur, and some unknown particles, an ancient combination that modern metallurgists could hardly replicate. The Templars, it seemed, had mastered a method of forging metal that would ensure it would remain virtually indestructible even after centuries of pressure, soil movement, and natural decay. This discovery led to a heated discussion among the team. If the outer shell was made so deliberately and with such sophistication, then the inner chamber had to be of unimaginable importance. Gold alone could explain the density readings, but the precision of the vault suggested that something even more precious, knowledge, documents, or sacred artifacts, might be inside. Some historians argued that the Templars were more protective of their knowledge than their wealth. These could be secret manuscripts, encrypted maps, or scrolls containing information the world was never meant to see. Rick and Marty exchanged glances, understanding the gravity of what they were about to uncover. Meanwhile, the external surveillance continued to unsettle the crew. The two black SUVs that had been parked nearby were not the only unusual activity. Over the next several nights, The team noticed faint lights in the distance, subtle movements in the tree line, and occasional signs of monitoring devices placed around the perimeter. It was clear that whoever was observing Oak Island understood the significance of what the team had discovered. Some speculated that it could be government agencies, historical societies, or even international interest groups who had long been aware of Oak Island's mysteries. Whatever the case, the tension on the island was palpable. Despite the danger, the team pressed on. Engineers devised a new plan to reach the inner chamber without damaging the outer walls. They calculated the perfect angle and adjusted the drilling approach to avoid compromising the protective shell. As the drill descended, the team held their collective breath. When the drill finally struck the dome of the second chamber, a deep metallic resonance vibrated through the ground. This sound was louder, clearer, and more profound than anything they had heard before. Marty muttered under his breath, "Brother, it's alive down there." The vibration was proof that the chamber contained a substantial mass, and the readings indicated it was not hollow, it was filled. Rick felt a mixture of awe and caution. The outer vault had been a protective barrier for centuries, and now the inner chamber had been disturbed for the first time in generations. Any misstep could damage not just the structure, but potentially the priceless contents inside. The team worked meticulously, using slow, precise movements to ensure that every action preserved the integrity of the chamber. They understood that they weren't just excavating, they were handling history, a piece of the medieval world that had been hidden for hundreds of years. As the night wore on, the tension reached its peak. The air seemed heavier, the sounds of the machinery echoing unnaturally in the darkness. Engineers detected subtle shifts in air pressure, indicating that the chamber was sealed more tightly than they had imagined. The faint smell of sulfur persisted, a reminder of the ancient sealing compounds used to preserve the chamber's contents. Each signal, each reading, reinforced the reality that this was no ordinary vault. This was a deliberate, sacred hiding place, constructed with intention and purpose, meant to endure through the ages. Finally, the team reached a point where the drill had fully contacted the inner chamber. The AI models had been accurate. The dome-shaped vault contained something solid, dense, and undoubtedly valuable. The metallic resonance suggested it was a heavy, engineered object, potentially an artifact or a chest of substantial weight. Engineers confirmed that the density readings matched what would be expected if gold bars, ancient relics, or Templar documents were stored inside. The realization hit the team hard. This was the culmination of years of searching, the proof that the legends were not only true, they had underestimated what lay beneath the surface. Rick spoke quietly but firmly, reminding the team of the responsibility they carried. Whatever we find here isn't just treasure, it's history, and history needs to be preserved. His words settled the crew, emphasizing the importance of caution and precision. Every step forward would need to be deliberate. The stakes were higher than ever. The outer shell had protected the inner chamber for centuries, and now the team held the key to opening it. They were standing on the brink of a discovery that could change our understanding of the medieval world.
Templars, Oak Island, and history itself. With the drill finally in place, the team prepared for the moment that could define their entire mission. The air was electric with anticipation. Engineers triple-checked the equipment. The team readied cameras to capture the moment for posterity. Everyone understood the historical significance. They were about to access a vault that had been untouched for centuries. A vault designed by one of the most secretive and influential orders in history. The metallic echoes, the dense readings, the sulfuric air, the Templar carvings, it all led to one undeniable conclusion. Oak Island had yielded its greatest secret yet. As the drill pressed against the inner chamber, the vibrations intensified. The readings spiked higher than ever before, indicating that they were on the verge of breakthrough. Every heartbeat on the island synchronized with the mechanical rhythm of the drill. Rick and Marty watched intently, fully aware that this was more than a discovery. This was a historical moment that could attract attention from around the world. Whatever lay inside the chamber would not just be a part of Oak Island's story. It could rewrite the understanding of medieval history and Templar secrets. And then it happened. A deep metallic clang reverberated through the island, louder than any previous echo. The air pressure shifted violently, pushing out a sudden gust from the inner chamber. The sulfur scent intensified, proof that the seal had been broken for the first time in centuries. The team froze in awe, their excitement mingled with fear. They had succeeded in contacting the inner vault. What they were about to see, feel, and document could be the most important discovery of their lives. Rick's calm voice broke the silence. "This is it," he said almost reverently. "The real vault. This is what the Templars wanted to protect above all else." The crew felt the weight of the moment. After years of searching, after countless dead ends, after nights of cold rain and uncertainty, they had finally reached the heart of Oak Island's greatest secret. The inner chamber was intact. The outer shell had done its job perfectly. Now it was a matter of carefully opening the entrance, step by step, to reveal the treasure or treasures hidden within. Every reading, every echo, every metallic ping confirmed that this was not a hoax, not a rumor, not a legend. This was the real deal. A Templar vault on Oak Island, sealed for centuries, waiting for the moment when it would finally be discovered by the modern world. The stage was set for the ultimate reveal. Gold, artifacts, or ancient documents, the possibilities were endless. One thing was certain: Oak Island had just delivered its most incredible secret, and the world would never be the same. As the team stood around the inner chamber, the atmosphere was electric. The air was tense, thick with anticipation, but also heavy with caution. Every member of the crew understood that what they were about to witness was not just a treasure. They were about to uncover history itself. The centuries-old seal had been disturbed, and the metallic echoes confirmed that something incredibly dense lay inside the dome-shaped vault. Rick Lagina carefully guided the team, reminding everyone that one wrong move could destroy not just the vault, but the priceless contents preserved within it. Engineers began the meticulous work of opening the inner vault. They used slow, precise movements, carefully adjusting the drill and extraction tools to avoid any unnecessary impact. The dense metal alloy of the outer and inner walls had proven nearly indestructible, but every vibration, every metallic ping was being measured and analyzed in real time. The team's hearts pounded with every sound. Each echo was a confirmation what lay inside was not empty, not a decoy. It was real, and it was substantial. Minutes felt like hours as the team worked. Every step required patience, precision, and attention to detail. Rick, Marty, and the engineers monitored the vibrations closely, comparing them to the AI-generated 3D models. The models had predicted a large mass inside the chamber, and now reality was confirming it. The reading suggested the material inside was incredibly dense, likely gold, ancient relics, or perhaps even tightly packed scrolls or manuscripts. The possibility of Templar documents, untouched for centuries, sent a shiver through the crew. If those documents were real, they could reveal secrets of the Templars, the Vatican, and perhaps even hidden knowledge about the medieval world. Finally, after careful work, the first small gap in the inner vault appeared. Cold air whooshed out, a blast preserved for centuries, and the faint scent of sulfur reminded everyone that this chamber had not been opened for hundreds of years. The light from flashlights danced across the metallic surface, revealing edges and surfaces that were perfectly engineered. This was not just craftsmanship, it was art. The Templars had built a structure that had endured centuries, surviving natural erosion, soil pressure, and time itself. As the opening widened, the team could now see inside the dome. Their eyes widened, mouths slightly open in disbelief. The vault was packed, dense with materials that reflected light in unexpected ways. It was impossible to tell at first glance whether the mass was entirely metallic or whether it contained other materials like wood or parchment. The AI density readings suggested it wasn't just gold. Something heavier, denser, and more carefully preserved might be hidden inside. Every member of the crew leaned in cautiously, understanding the historical magnitude of the moment. Rick motioned for